Most of us want to achieve financial security and peace of mind. I mean, let's face it, right? And achieving financial success involves that we create a plan, that we have discipline when it comes to saving and investing, and that we accumulate wealth. Today in the blog, I share with you 7 different secrets on financial success. And today in the podcast, I'm going to share 4 less known insights on creating more success with your money. So you can go to 59, themillionaireinsider.com/59 to see the other 7 secrets. Hi, I'm Annette Bau, host of the Wealth Inside and Out podcast and founder of the Millionaire Insider. My mission is to help you simplify the money game so you can create a financially secure and fulfilled life without having to have a PhD or spend countless hours on your finances. You're going to learn how to think like a millionaire, stop worrying about money and wondering if your financial house is truly in order, and instead spend your time doing what you love. With over 3 decades advising 7, 8, and even 9-figure millionaires, and now joining that elite group, I'm in a unique position to help you make the best financial choices so you can create a secure financial future and retirement you love. This is the Wealth Inside and Out podcast. If you want to know your next best financial step, you can go to themillionaireinsider.com/NSF. That's going to provide you insight on what you should do next to secure your financial future. So again, themillionaireinsider.com/NSF. If you have a question you would love me to answer on the podcast, or you would love to just ask a millionaire, you can go to themillionaireinsider.com/WIOP-ask. Again, that's a WIOP-ask. It stands for Wealth Inside and Out Podcast, and then -ask. But you can ask any question about success, millionaires, mindset, money, wealth, and you can get them answered. So again, themillionaireinsider.com/WIOP-ask. For today's show notes, you can go to themillionaireinsider.com/59. All materials and intellectual property are copywritten by themillionaireseries.com. This information is for educational purposes only. It is not intended to replace any advisor or specialist or to provide investment, financial, tax, retirement, planning, or healthcare advice. So let's dive into the 4 pillars of financial success. For today's show notes, you can go to themillionaireinsider.com/59. The first thing is you got to start thinking like a millionaire, even if you don't believe it's possible. In fact, if you don't believe it's possible, then clearly you need to learn how to think. Because the one thing millionaires do is they think big. They think possibility. They think, what do I really want? And that's the first step when it comes to setting big goals, is you got to set goals of what you truly want. You know, it's so fascinating when you look at people who are struggling or not where they want to be, and then you start talking to them about goals. Their goals are often very, very small. They're either really small or they're so unrealistic that I question if they'd ever get momentum to even do them. It's like, I'm struggling, I can't make ends meet, and I want $100 million net worth. Now I get it, because that was kind of my goal until I started seeing some millionaires that were worth 100 million saying, I want to have money, but I also want to have an amazing life. But the reality of it is we got to figure that out, right? We got to figure out why we're struggling, number one. And then number 2, what we got to do is get clear on what we really want. The reason a lot of people want $100 million is because they think what it's going to do for them, meaning their vision of what their life will look like once they have it, how they're going to feel, and what they're going to be able to do. What they don't realize is that a lot comes with that. So I just want you to get really clear, meaning I'd rather have a smaller net worth and be fulfilled than have $100 million and be miserable. Now, I'm not saying you can't have $100 million and have an amazing life, because there are some people who do. But I've also seen a lot of people who, because they have sacrificed so much just to achieve their financial goals, it's come at such a high price to their health, to their relationships, to their peace of mind. So you've got to get clear on what that is for you. But once you identify what those big goals are and you're ready now to set them, I encourage you to state them in I am or I active verb statements. For example, I accumulate $1 million with ease, or my partner and I accumulate $1 million with ease. And you might even say, I accumulate $1 million net worth with ease. Whatever sounds right to you. Ideally, it's I am or I active verb. I earn $100,000 in the year with ease. So you can state the year. Once you've identified your goals, and hopefully you're going to do them in more areas than just one, you don't want to sit on a three-legged chair, and most people don't want to live a three-legged life. So look at different areas, not just money, your life, your personal care, your family, charity, spirituality, all the things that go into an amazing life for you. Then what you want to do is you want to look at one specific goal and you want to set a high value activity for that goal. You're going to have 1 to 3 high value activities. These are the activities you need to do to achieve that goal. So for example, if your goal is I accumulate $1 million net worth, a high value activity would be to possibly affirm that every day, meaning you're writing it out, you're speaking it, you're stating it into a recording, you're listening to it. So it's really getting into your subconscious mind. Another one could be that you're increasing your savings from 25% to 35 or 40%. Now, if you're like, what? How can I ever increase my savings to even 25%? It was funny because when I started seeing people who were saving 50%, I was like, what? And then I realized it is possible. And even now, I see some people who are just way too frugal, in my opinion. They've got too much money and they don't want to spend it. It's amazing that they're probably living off about 25% of what they're generating. So it is possible. It's just a matter of the choices you make. And again, you've got to decide what works for you. Saving 35, 40, or even 50% is definitely possible. All right, the next thing is when it comes to thinking like a millionaire, or really even thinking like a wealthy person, is confidence. And the real key here is believing it without the proof. The one thing I see about millionaires is that they just believe it. Like, as crazy as our dreams are, we believe them. It's just interesting how when you have that faith, you have that belief, you have that knowing, it just like happens. The next thing you got to do as far as getting more confidence is you got to get to know and like yourself. And I encourage you to spend more time alone. One of the things I have seen in my career is that people who always have to be around people, a lot of times they're doing that for validation, and they're doing it because they don't feel enough. And so they're trying to get somebody out there to give them validation that they're enough. Oh, that is such a vicious cycle. And I know I suffered from that for years. And it really took me years to really get to like myself because I'm such a perfectionist and I expect everything to be a certain way. And it was like, really? I was so hard on myself. Like if I messed up, I could do like everything perfect and I messed up on one thing. And what do you think I focused on? It was really unhealthy. And thank goodness I have had years of therapy and I really worked on that. But you want to get to know who you are. What do you love doing? Like, when are you at your best and when are you at your worst? Like, I know for me, I need to get enough sleep. I am a different person when I'm getting enough sleep. So last night, because we work out Sunday morning early, we didn't get enough sleep. And so when we came home after working out, we took a nap. I did that last week too. And I'm like, okay, that's good. You ideally want 7 to 8.5 hours of sleep a night, but it's so important. And I know that I think clearer, I have more confidence, I have more peace of mind, and I know my clients do too. So I really encourage you to really make self-care a priority in your life. The next thing is you want to work on your self-worth. And this really ties to your worth barometer. One of the best affirmative statements is, I am enough. And I just encourage you to state that throughout the day. I am enough. I am enough. And not in an egotistical way or I'm better than someone, but just accepting yourself with all your imperfections. You are enough. I am enough. You are enough. We all are enough. And you've got to understand that when it comes to like our imperfections and the areas that we aren't great at, that's what makes us unique. And that's why there's only one of you. That's why you're unique. So I really encourage you to spend some time with that And as I mentioned, you got to make self-growth a priority. It's so important. When you look at the actions you're taking, you want to make sure in everything you're doing that the action you're taking is getting you to your goal. So actions that we take need to ideally be achieving our desired results. The actions you're taking are producing results. Whether they are ones you want or not is something that you might want to look into. But the key is to really be clear and focused on the action you're taking and then looking at the results you're getting, because that's going to give you some insight. And that's one thing millionaires are great at. They are so focused on the action they're taking and the results they're getting. I call those IPAs, income producing activities, or high value activities, HVAs, but they work. The second area is your money mindset. So the first thing that gets in the way of money mindset are money blocks. And a money block is a negative subconscious belief about money that can limit you from achieving what you want to achieve, what you consciously desire. We all have different blocks at different levels. It's really fascinating to look at somebody who gets to a certain level of income or net worth, and then they just kind of stay there, for years and years. And it really takes releasing those money blocks and beliefs to get there. In our money mindset mastery, the reason I focus so much in on money blocks is because if you can release money blocks, it's going to change everything. But I'm going to give you a couple examples, like beliefs that you're never going to have money. What I want you to just start watching is things you say, like life is hard, the economy's bad. I mean, I find it fascinating. Like right now, there are more people who have more business than they know what to do with. And yet a certain segment of the population is like, the economy is so bad. Now, what I do find, especially in an election year, you got to be aware of this, my friends, is that the goal of politicians is to win an election. It's not to get you financially free. All right. We got to get really clear on that. But depending on who you're listening to, everything's either great if it's the person in office, or if it's the person that wants to be in office, everything's terrible. And so what I do find is that does largely influence people. If you're only being fed news from one segment, meaning like either conservative or liberal, it's just so fascinating. But the reality of it is right now is that, yeah, we are in an election year and that does impact things. But what I want you to be really focused in on is what's happening in your life and in your house as compared to so much about what's happening in the White House. What I've seen over my career is that a lot of people let that impact them. If so-and-so is elected, then I'm not going to have money. The economy is going to be bad. My friends, I've been doing this for a long time, and I have seen literally every single possibility in the office. And the one thing I know is that when you have the right mindset and you're focused on the action you can take and the results you want, that's what matters, regardless of who's running the country, regardless of what's happening. Now, I'm not saying don't be aware, and I'm not saying I'm not concerned about issues, but I'm saying that when you let anything out there impact what you do or don't do, that's when it's a problem. The next area you got to look at is money stories and scripts. So, for example, rich people are corrupt, right? I mean, isn't that true? In my family, it was like, well, they have money. I still to this day, it was so funny, like, oh, well, they have money, as if because they had money, that was a problem and there was something wrong with them. It's just amazing that I overcame all the things I heard as a child. And the point being is that if I can, you can too. I don't do numbers or money, or that's my spouse's job. Oh, that one is so cringeworthy. Money is the root of all evil. I mean, what's so fascinating if you study religion is the fact that when the masses were starting to take over, that's when a lot of the fear and guilt and all of the things that came into play, and it was to control people. We don't want you to have a lot of money because if you have a lot of money, you can make your own decisions and you can have more power. It's so interesting if you look at a lot of things that occurred over the centuries. And a major influence on how you see money and how you react to it is your upbringing, your teachers, your religion, your mentors, your family. All of those things impact it. So what you've got to do if you truly want to create a financially secure life you love is you've got to start becoming aware of them and just notice them. You notice when you say, well, the economy is not great because so-and-so's in office. I share with you my neighbor who said, well, the stock market's doing great, but the 401ks are just doing terrible because of the current president. I'm like, what? I'm like, help me understand. What did you just say? She had no idea that the 401ks are a direct reflection of the stock market. So she heard somewhere that the stock market's doing really well, but 401ks aren't because of the current president. I mean, those are the things, my friends, that are just absolutely crazy. And they are money stories that are not helping you. So again, you've got to be aware of this. Now, what could be the case, and I don't have any idea because I was just listening to her, I'm like, what? What? It might be that in a 401k, there was company stock and that didn't do well. All right. So that could be a possibility. But in the vast majority of 401ks, it's invested in the stock or bond market or even cash. And if you are invested in the market and the market's going up as it has been, your 401k is going to go up. But that's another example of a money story that's completely unfounded, but it's causing you to be stuck. All right, how do you heal them? The first thing you want to do is identify them. And there's a great handwriting exercise in the 7 Principles of Becoming a Fulfilled and Wealthy Millionaire where you write it out with your dominant hand. For example, what do I believe about rich people? Why do I have a problem with money? Why can't I attract money? Or why am I ignoring my money? Why am I a poor steward of my money? Ask the question with your dominant hand and then answer it with your non-dominant. Now, in the book, which I'll link to in the show notes, which is themillionaireinsider.com/7P-15VIP, you can get a 15% discount. Again, 7P-15VIP. I go through an entire exercise on really getting clear on money stories, money blocks, so you can identify them and then release them. I encourage you to state your affirmative statements based on what you want. So I am great with numbers is a phenomenal one to replace. I don't do numbers, or I don't do money, or my partner does the money. Another one is to focus, breathe, and or practice different types of meditation. Silent would be comparable to focused breathing or guided, but make sure you're either doing focused breathing or silent meditation because that will really calm down your primal brain, whereas guided meditation is great. Yoga is great. Walking's great. Those are using 2 sources of your brain. I want you to focus on one thing so that you learn how to single task, not multitask. So important. And then you got to focus on what you want. Most people are focused so much on what they don't want. And you say, well, what do you want? And they're like, that's a really good question. It is, isn't it? It's so important. All right. Number 3, you got to create a spending plan. And it's so funny that people are like, oh, I don't really want a spending plan. Well, everyone has a spending plan. Somehow people think that once they accumulate a certain amount of money, they don't need a spending plan. My friends, once you accumulate multi-millions and you have a lot of properties and you have a lot of stuff going on, you need a spending plan even more so than when you don't have money because you have taxes due, you've got insurance, you've got a lot of overhead. So you got to have a spending plan. And the spending plan should include your income from all sources. You want to determine if you have enough. Is there enough money? And if not, how much is your deficit? Meaning, how much do you need? And what are your opportunities to earn more? Very important. And then your expenses. You got to separate out needs from wants. Our magical budget at themillionaireinsider.com/MBT separates those out. So you can see an example of it. You got to determine where can you cut expenses. And then you want to increase your savings and investing. Now, one comment on your expenses. I was a spokesperson for the local FPA for a couple of years, and I'd go into homes, I'd be on TV, and I'd find people say, oh my gosh, we just can't survive. And then I start looking at how they're spending money. One was didn't do gourmet coffee, but he was doing Slurpees at $4 a day. So 4 times 30 is $120. What is that a year? $1,440. I mean, it was crazy. He'd been doing that for 10 years. I'm like, well, that's like probably about what, 20,000 if you accumulate interest on it or you have it invested. He's like, wow, I always just thought of it as $1. And then I shared the story of our friends who were doing gourmet coffees at $7 a pop times 4, $30 a day, like $1,000 a month. It's just crazy. And I guess they weren't doing exactly $1,000 a month. It was more like $900 a month or $800 a month, but it was a lot. And it was like, they just had no idea how much it was accumulating over the course of the years they'd been doing that. The final one is wealth accumulation. Now, to do that, you got to create your financial plan. And this includes your insurance analysis, all insurances from your homeowners to DI, disability, long-term care, life insurance, an umbrella policy, everything. You've got to look at your tax plan, and this should be tied to your retirement plan and your estate plan. And then you want to determine how much money you need to accumulate. Now, if you don't know or you're not sure how much money you need to save to accumulate what you want, this is where you hire an advisor. Now, you can go to themillionaireinsider.com/support-request to talk to a financial coach to determine your next best step. Then what you got to do is you got to commit, and you got to stay committed even when the going gets tough. I was recently having a conversation with someone in our community, and she said, I had no idea how many boring and mundane tasks need to be done to accumulate wealth. It's like, that is so true, my friends. And if you do the work, you stay committed, you're going to be so glad you did. And you've got to get used to that a lot of the tasks are not fun. And it's always so funny. When I was a top producer for 22 years, I'd always be on stage and people would always come up to me and be, oh, you're so lucky. Oh, how did you do it? And I'll never forget because I would tell them how to do it. And then the next year, same thing. They're saying the same thing. I'm like, did you do anything I told you last year? It was just the same old, same old. They wanted the result, but they didn't want to do the work. It just doesn't work that way, my friends. But if you do the work, which obviously you're listening, so you are doing the first step, but then just start implementing it. You just need to start. Just take one step in the right direction, and before you know it, you'll be off to the races. So there you have it. So let's recap on the 4 pillars. First one is you got to think like a millionaire. Start thinking bigger, setting goals, removing those money blocks, and focusing in on actions that achieve your desired results. You then want to look at your money mindset, remove those money blocks and those money stories and scripts that are keeping you stuck. 3, you want to create a spending plan. You want to make sure you have adequate income, and then you also want to make sure that your expenses are in line so that you have enough money to save. Meaning if you are overspending, looking at ways in which you can reduce that so that you can start saving more. There's nothing fun about being broke in retirement. You think struggling when you can work is a problem? Wait until you're struggling, you can't. Whatever you do, you've got to get your spending in line with what you need to do so that you can achieve your goals. And then finally, you want to be accumulating wealth. And this is where you invest. Now, before you start any investment plan, you've got to consult with a qualified investment advisor. If you don't have a lot of money, then just go to a local retail brokerage and they should have an assessment. But you got to consult with somebody just to make sure you're in line. I see so many of these forums online where somebody will say, oh, I inherited money or I did this. What should I do? And people are giving them advice and they don't know anything about their situation. That, my friends, often ends in disaster. So don't do that. Just make sure that you're prepared before you start. So there you have it. If you love the content of this podcast, please follow and subscribe to our channel so you get notified of episodes, and also give us a 5-star review and share a comment. We really appreciate it. Congratulations on taking another step to create a financially free life you love. If you're not sure about your financial future or that it's in order, or you are ready to stop worrying about money, or possibly the fear of becoming a bag lady, ending up broke in retirement, or you simply are ready to know your financial house is in order so that you can have a bright financial future, please go to themillionaireinsider.com/NSF. And that doesn't stand for non-sufficient funds. It stands for next step finance. It's the next best step of what you need to do so you can avoid an NSF notice in your future. Again, themillionaireinsider.com/NSF. The number of women who were not broke or poor while working or married is staggering. The entire mission of the Wealth Inside and Out podcast is to ensure you have the information for you, your family, your friends, anyone who's willing to listen to it and apply it so that you can create a financially free life you love. Again, themillionaireinsider.com/NSF. Until our next episode, take one action that will help you create a financially free life you love. I'm Annette Bau, your host. All international copyrights are reserved. Bye for now.